How much is enough? That's a tough question.
You were listening to Wealth Talks with the McPhees. 6 out of 10 Americans, more than 6 out of every 10 Americans, are living paycheck to paycheck. Even people that are making over $100,000 a year, you would think they have a little bit more of an advantage, but still yet 4 out of 10 of that group are still living paycheck to paycheck.
And that means they're not keeping anything for tomorrow, for a rainy day. I remember the story about Hop the Grasshopper and Andy the Ant. And Hop the Grasshopper was out just frivolously enjoying summer, playing, frolicking around. And the ants were busy struggling, putting away for winter. And Hop would laugh at the ants and say, winter is so far away, summer is the time to play. And he laughed and sang some more. But in the end, he paid the consequences.
And it's, it doesn't really matter how much you make. People think, if I just had more money, then I'd be able to budget better. But we have to learn to budget on what we have. And that means we might have to cut out some of the expenses that we have, or we might need to work a little differently to produce the income that we need to take care of those expenses.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that the average wage in America across the United States is $57,192. And 75%, or $3,550, is spent on essentials. The rest of it is spent on things that are not essential for living. And yet, still, people don't have any money at the end of the month. So a lot of people are playing Hop the Grasshopper here. They're not thinking about the future, and they're hoping that someone else will take care of them, but that's never going to happen. Nobody's ever going to take care of you better than you can take care of yourself. And that's what America was built on. Today, in our entitlement era, we're hoping the government or some other person will take up the slack, or our employer, or whatever. But we have to be responsible for knowing that there are rainy days coming ahead in our future. Everybody's future. It's not just a bed of roses. We have to prepare for that. And putting something aside now for tomorrow is always a good idea.
But that's always a difficult thing to do, because as people, we want what we want now.
Yeah.
And, me included, I want things now, but we also have to be careful that we don't give up what we want most for what we want now. And, when we look at exercising discipline in our life, it really comes with benefits to it. And, just like the little child who wants that cookie before they eat their lunch, well, once they have the cookie, they're no longer hungry for lunch. And lunch has the good nutrients in it that their body really needs, not what the cookie has in it. So if we can learn some of that self-discipline, even that little toddler has to learn, the little child has to learn, then we can apply that to different areas in our life. It doesn't matter if it's a cookie before lunch, or if it's financial things, or a decision at the store on, am I going to purchase this now, or do I need to wait?
Yeah. Well, the average meal eating out today, just for an example, costs $15 per person, or $1,350 per month if you eat a meal out every month.
How much per month?
$1,350.
Wow.
Whereas, according to the Labor of Bureau statistics, again, 4 people can eat on $1,300 a month, all 3 meals. And so it becomes a priority thing. There's nothing wrong with eating out, but when we do it on a regular basis, and I remember as a kid, it was a very rare occasion that we ate out.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're saying there's nothing wrong with eating out, because there isn't. That can be a great treat for us. It can provide nourishment, but it can also provide entertainment and enjoyment. However, we also have to realize that should come from our entertainment and enjoyment part of our budget. And if if you're not able to put money away, not able to save, not able to buy some of the essentials without dipping into credit, then you need to reevaluate and decide, well, how often do I need this treat is really
Exactly.
what it is. And how can I choose to eat more economically at other times?
Yeah. So you mentioned essentials there. And this is it can be a hard line sometimes, hard to find the line between essentials and non-essential things. We talked about the earlier stats here. 75% of the average wage earner's income is spent on essentials, 25% on non-essentials. Sometimes it takes a little bit of looking to discover what those are, because as human beings, once we experience something as a luxury, it often becomes a necessity. And we have to really think about it to see, is this really a necessity now, or is it still a luxury? And there's also a force that's working against us during all of this, and that is inflation. Because since the 1990s, the cost of living has risen faster than real wages. And so a lot of those, quote, luxuries may be necessities, because the price of those necessities are rising faster than real wages. And so that's the balance that you always have to be looking at, and making sure that your essentials are indeed essentials. Because if you want to get ahead financially, you have to find a way to start putting money away today.
Well, when 4 out of 10 American homes have at least 2 televisions in them, I know that at least one of those televisions is a non-essential.
There you go.
And so, but like you said, a luxury once enjoyed becomes a necessity. So we have to evaluate even what a necessity is anymore. And I know Nelson Nash, the founder of Becoming Your Own Banker, used to talk about this a lot. And he associated it with Parkinson's law. And it begins to consume our whole life with things that we think are necessary now that 10 years ago we would have thought were extreme luxuries. Mm-hmm. So going back to how much is enough, Solomon told us that there is 7 things on the earth that never have enough. And we don't want to become the 8th one of those things. We want to make sure that we're careful, we're frugal, that we're diligent, but we're not being stingy or just cheap.
Well, one of the ways that expenses can creep up without you realizing it is through increases in subscription prices, or even just buying the subscription. Often you'll buy it and then you forget that you have it, and it's just adding to that credit card every single month. And so, but then prices of subscriptions go up over time as well. Here, just a few weeks ago, I got a couple of emails that were talking about subscription prices going up. And after our recent move, I was just going through my email, and I found 4 emails, 4 different companies raising their subscription prices on subscriptions that we use to run our business. And so there's that type of a price increase as well. And so one of the areas that you can often find, extra dollars in your budget is to go back and review some of those subscriptions. Have the plan that you started on, has it been morphed into another plan with an increased subscription cost? Are you still using everything that you purchased that subscription for? There's often good room to evaluate, and it's always a good thing to look at subscriptions during part of that process.
And sometimes you still need those subscriptions.
The prices do go up.
Right. But sometimes you can reevaluate and find something of equal or lesser costs that will still provide you the value you need. Sometimes you can't, but that's all through the process. Sometimes you realize, hey, I haven't used this like I thought I would use it. And so now it's time to cut it.
Yeah.
Well, Michelle, you said something right at the very first, too, that's really important. Maybe we need to be looking at a way to be more productive, to create more income rather than just to cut cost. And that's a valid point, too. Sometimes we get lackadaisical about what we do for a living and don't realize that there could be a more productive way for us to spend our time earning the money that we need to buy essentials with so that we can save. some of it.
Yes, it is a two-way street there. People that pinch every penny, they can save a lot, and yet it can often cost a lot in the long if they're missing the bigger picture.
Yeah. And going back to Nelson Nash, he said that everyone knows the price of everything but the cost of nothing. And we often will say, oh, that's too expensive, or oh, we can't afford that. Those are words that we tried never to use in our family and still don't, because it creates a poverty mentality. And I believe that God put us on this earth to be productive and to enjoy the abundance of his creation while we're here. If not us, who?
That's right. We're the ones here. We're the ones who have to take care of it. And actually, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be on this earth, because
It is.
there's
A wonderful
other
blessing.
people who wish they could be here and they aren't with us anymore. And so we just need to realize, hey, life has its challenges, and we can be up to that and take it and enjoy working through those challenges for greater opportunities.
I remember listening to my grandma who raised her family, my mother, through the Great Depression. And, her husband, my grandfather, often had to go away from the home to find work because there just wasn't any work during the Depression. And during that time, my grandmother had a cow. She raised vegetables. She milked the cows. She sold her milk. And she did what was necessary to support her family. And we need to have that type of attitude today. Not that you have to go out and buy your cow, but there might be some other thing that you can do that brings more profit for the time that you're putting into it.
Mm-hmm.
And there can be a sense of is the word accomplishment, a sense of industry, a sense of pride, even in being able to make different decisions that produce greater wealth for you, and that you can see a difference. There can be a real sense of fulfillment in that if you take the challenge to do that.
Yeah, building wealth, setting up a good financial strategy, identifying good cash flow, that's only half of the picture, because then you have to revisit that picture from time to time and keep it on track. Otherwise, it will get off track. And Nelson Nash talked about this. He would talk about sometimes you've just got to get a yellow pad and go off and sit in a corner with yourself.
All by yourself.
and I think sometimes people don't think to do that often enough. We're bombarded with information all the time. We're running here and there, keeping up with the busyness that is part of life. And sometimes it's easy to forget to stop and think about what's going on and think about whether you want to change direction, change course,
Well,
so that you can arrive at the destination
it's too
that
easy,
you really
John.
want.
It's too easy, John, to sit down and thumb through my non-essential apps on my phone.
It is.
And look at all the
very
social
easy.
media.
It's very easy, and yet there is a cost to that.
There's a cost to it, and we
And it
have
adds
to
up
weigh
over
that.
time.
And we're responsible for our time too, because as the old saying goes, time is money. And if we're wasting time in a place that we could be more productive, I remember, Michelle, when we were first married, we worked hard, and I know that you did a lot of toll painting. I'd cut out a lot of your work. We'd sell those crafts. We'd go to garage sales and buy things and resell them to make money so that we could pay our house off early. And we did. We had that goal. We paid our house off in 5.5 years. And so there are ways to make more money. We just have to be creative, and we have to be willing.
Yeah.
That's right. It's about being a better steward of the money that God has given you. And, you wrote a book on this recently. It's called A Biblical Guide to Personal Finance, and you can get that book at wealthtalks.com. Be sure to get that book. That has wonderful stories and explanations in it about how to become a better steward with your money. And it's biblically based.
Money isn't wealth, but learning to keep a portion of every dollar you earn creates wealth, because it's the discipline that comes from that. And Henry Ford acknowledged that being in control of money and being allowed to see how it exchanges and dealing in money is a very lucrative business. And that's why we're in the business that we're in. We teach people, we coach people to keep a portion of what they make in a safe place where they can regulate it and use it as a commodity of exchange and have it returned to them. And it makes them very, very more productive in life because of that.
Well, something I was thinking just a moment ago, John, when you were talking about the subscription prices and how you had all those emails and several of the subscriptions that we have, they increased.
And some of those are essential subscriptions.
Sure.
We will be keeping them.
Sure. So, but it made me think about, wow, our clients, they've purchased their whole life policies and none of them get statements or emails or anything saying your price is going up.
Oh, isn't that so nice?
Yes. I was just thinking, what a
you
blessing.
don't have to be worried about that.
Right. Because when you have a whole life policy, you know what that fixed premium is. And it will never go up on you. And, we've kind of talked about this before, but I guess just putting it in these terms, it just made me feel so good to think about that you're never going to get that call, hey, cost is going up. That's different kind of insurance that has that people get those calls. Our clients don't get those calls. The only exception would be is a term policy. It's a term policy. It's only good for a certain term period. Right. But during that term, it's never going to go up. You are locked into that time. So, that's just something really positive to think about.
It is. Yeah, it's very positive.
Well, if you don't want to be completely dependent on your income or someone else's income for the rest of your life, then learning to keep part of everything you make is essential.
That's right. You are listening to Wealth Talks with the McPhees. You can always call us at 702-660-7000. We look forward to helping you. Have a wonderful week.